Hey guys, it's Seth3, and I'm here for a video that I've wanted to do for a while, and now actually feels like the perfect time because everyone's at home. We're all starting to get a little bit bored with this whole quarantine stuff. So I figured, if you're like me and binging shows and you feel like you just have to be doing something with your hands, here's something you can do while binging your favorite shows. I am currently on an I Love Lucy binge. I'm at the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour. I can't believe I got here already. Anyways, I'm going to show you how to make some Webkinz accessories, just some things you might have lying around, and if you don't go to stores to buy them. Just stay home, please. Like, if you really need to order something, get it online if possible. So I myself have been hard at work doing crafts because I like doing crafts. As a matter of fact, this little hood here is one thing that I have done already. Isn't it pretty? I like it. And one of my favorite things to put on Webkinz in general is just bows. And if you're like me, you kind of have a problem where you go out once in a while, there's a sale on ribbon, and you can't help yourself, and before you know it, it's stockpiling everywhere. You got more ribbon than you can handle, and it's just, this is only my stuff that's still sealed. I will show you how to make a few bows with some of these things. So, bows themselves are not hard to do, but they will require something extra like this. These are little rubber bands for hair. I've had these for years. They come in all different colors. You can even get some in clear. They're really nice, cheap, and very useful to have around the house. I use them for so many things. That is all you'll need to make a bow and attach it to a Webkinz. Although I do want you to keep in mind, these will not last forever. After about a year, maybe 2 years, they kind of get stretched out, dry rot, break, like regular rubber bands do. So just keep that in mind. I think I'll go ahead and make something out of this because I think it's pretty, and I have a cat that wants to join me. Hi, lady. Oh, lady. Now I'm gonna cut this roughly 3 times the length that I actually want it to be. I really did not think when buying this glitter is gonna get everywhere. Oh my god. Lady! Oh, okay. She drools when she gets happy. Oh my god. Did you? Lady, this is satin. Well, now it's just gonna be fine. Alright, then I'm gonna take a rubber band for a color. I think something like this would look good in a purple, so I'm gonna grab a purple band. You can also use 2 of these if you want some extra strength, but I typically just use 1 because I know I'm gonna have to replace it at some point or another, so. Oh gosh, glitter is falling everywhere. I didn't know this was stretchy either until just now, so oh gosh, you can see the glitter flaking away. Anyways, you wanna take it and fold it basically in thirds like this. And then you just go ahead and fold it up. The back will be where this is here. And then you just take the band and you slip it around. And there you go. You have yourself a nice little bow, just like that. Although if you want to attach it to the Webkinz, this is where having these in a clear color actually comes in handy. So at the back of the bow, you're just going to lift up this band, loop another one over, and then thread it through like this, pull it tight, and there you have it. And you can just take this and put it over top of an ear. And there you go. You have yourself a cute little bow that only took a minute to make. Although I'm gonna take this off of her because glitter. Oh my god, there's so much glitter. And there's a dead bug already. Great, I hate summer. But say you want to make a bow that kind of has the ribbon falling down a little bit. That's also very easy to do. And I'm gonna get a thinner ribbon here for this, if I can get this open. So for this one, I'm gonna cut it a little longer than 3 times the size I want. You don't have to do this, but in my opinion, I think it looks a little bit better. And we are going to do the same thing here, kind of folding it in thirds almost, except a little bit longer with these ends. Of course, wrapping it up again. Kind of hard to get it to fold the way you want, but I'm just gonna say that's folded the way I want. And then you just kind of take these and you pull them down, and there you go. You have yourself another little bow that looks awful pretty, and there's no like specialty knots required. These are the types of bows that I believe dog groomers use when they put them on dogs, and that is how I make all of my bows. If you don't have this much ribbon, then you must have some sales resistance. Hobby Lobby had a sale. I lost my mind. They shouldn't have done that. Whole ribbon, why? Something else I forgot to mention is that hemostats can be helpful with these rubber bands, but I don't particularly find them very useful. I'm better with my fingers, and I also have small hands, but if you have large hands, something like this might be helpful. Okay, so that's cool and all, but maybe you want something that takes a little bit more time to do. After all, you're sitting there for a while, and you can make these bows in under a minute. In that case, welcome to bracelet making. I used to make these a lot more when I just had the time, but now I just don't feel like it. But basically, making stuff like this. This particular one I am wearing right here is called a candy stripe. You can find tutorials for them all over YouTube, so I'm not gonna go too into depth. But the main two I know how to do is a candy stripe and a chevron. This is an old one that I used to wear, but I started doing the candy stripes because they're just a lot quicker to do. And yeah, these take a very long time. To make a bracelet this size, which I am a small person, I have small hands, small wrists, this takes probably about 7 hours. And it's pretty mindless work, so it's really something great to do, like while just watching a TV show or something. So these types of bracelets are made out of embroidery floss. Now, I got a whole bunch given to me years and years and years ago, and I am nowhere near close going through it. But if you really need some, you can buy a pack of like 200 off Amazon for 12 bucks, last I checked. So this stuff is cheap and easy to get and possible to get right now. The clipboard is optional, but I find it to be very, very helpful. If you're not using a clipboard nowadays, you might have one lying around. If you do not have a clipboard lying around, you can substitute this with a piece of cardboard and tape. Now, rather than opening these up and starting another bracelet, I'm not going to bother with that, because if you're like me, you have a bunch of unfinished projects, and that includes bracelets. If I just empty this out here, I got a ton going on. This is one that was never even started. And this is a chevron. Okay, so for making a bracelet that typically will fit around the size of your wrist, you take the embroidery floss and you stretch it out to your complete arm's length. So just, you take it, stretch it like that, and then cut it. For a chevron, where you're obviously doing double, you would obviously do 2 arms lengths and then you fold it over. And I guess I'll show you the chevron because the candy stripe is virtually the same thing. All these bracelets are built around one main type of knot. Well, 2 main types of knots, but they're very, very easy to do. So, and you need to separate your strings into the order that you want them in, which is a little easier said than done. I don't remember because I cut this out like 5 years ago. Okay, it took some time, but I separate out into a pattern I think will look somewhat decent. And then you're going to take a side. I like to fold it up. It makes it a little simpler. And another purpose to keep this from getting very matted, I love these mini rubber bands. They are so freaking useful. Don't worry, these things look like a mess up here. They won't look like a mess for long. So you're just gonna take it and then you're going to lay the string across. So it's gonna make like an L shape like this. Then the string will go under and through. And it'll make like this loop like this. That is called a forwards knot. And you're just going to pull it tight as you can, and then do it again. You do it twice on every string. See, and my pattern already got messed up here, so I'm just gonna guess what was next. Okay, and that's the last one on this side. And it looks like a total disaster. Let me just go ahead and try and pull everything tight. I'm not too worried. The first row is always going to look like garbage. But see, now all the strings are in the order I want, and they're staying in the order I want, and that's the most important thing right now. And now for a chevron, you want to match the pattern, but rather than going like this, see, that'll pull the string this way. You want to go, lay it, make a backwards. Wait a minute. Is this still? No, it's not. Oh my god. So basically, you're going to do the same thing, but backwards. That's called a backwards knot, I think. I don't know which one's forwards and which one's backwards, but you just do that because at the end, it leaves the string facing that way. And now we've reached the center, to which I'm going to just take this one, and you want to overlap the centers to tie them together. So 1, 2, and that's the start for our arrow chevron bracelet. Now our pattern is mostly laid out. Just go do the exact same thing, following your pattern. 1, 2, next string, 1, 2. Alright, get this blue one, and I'm at the center, and I'm gonna link the white ones again. So 1, 2. Now it looks pretty bad starting off, but that you can see it's the basis of our chevron shape, and eventually it would look something more akin to this. And that was a 6-string chevron, and it's not something I'm particularly keen on doing. I particularly like 5 or 6 string candy stripes because they are a lot easier to handle. So here's a candy stripe that I started obviously a while ago. These knots are kind of loose. And why I like the clipboard so much is that I like to not leave it hanging like this. It makes it easier to pull the knots tighter if they're closer. So I often move it up and clip it, and then I will just start going. Candy stripes are a lot like chevrons, but you know, they're just 1 string, and I like them so much more for that. It's just a lot of slow knot pulling. It can be very relaxing to some people, but it also kind of chafes on your finger a little bit after a while. So just be aware of that. Ow, I just cracked my finger. Yeah, you're gonna do that a lot. You're gonna pull your finger in the wrong direction. Okay, well, either way, there. And it's quite small, it's only a 5-string candy stripe, but you can see that. And after you get the basis of that, you can look up our tutorials and find how to do other things, like even this heart. This is the only thing that I've ever done that's not a chevron or a candy stripe, and I never finished it. But you can do plenty of stuff like that, and you can make them to be little necklaces for your Webkinz. And even aside from that, things like this embroidery floss are really nice to have around to just tie around your Webkinz neck to hang a pendant or something. So embroidery floss is cheap and has multiple purposes. I wish that guy would stop riding his ATV and staring at me. Now those are some easy little accessories. Maybe you're looking for something a little bit better. Maybe you wanna give your Webkinz a vest or something. So this is an old trick that I saw going around KinzTube a long time ago, and I haven't seen it talked about recently, so I figured, why not bring it back into light? Chances are you probably have an old pair of socks lying about. You cut off one end. I think you might want to use this part as the neck, but I want this on the back, and these aren't exactly like well, these are low-rise socks. That's why I'm cutting them up. I don't like low-rise. Maybe you're supposed to do more up here and it kind of folds up, but I want this part on the back. So I'm cutting a half circle shape, and hold on a sec, I've never done this before. I'm just gonna cut this part off and see what happens. Okay, forget the half circle. So now we have our circle. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a little side and you're gonna fold it at that side. And then you're gonna cut a little circle out of it. And that will be at the front. And I'm gonna go over here, pinch the side over here, and do my best to mirror the circle on the same place. And there we are. Now if I just slip it on over his head, great thing about socks is that they're very stretchy. Put his arms in it. And I put it on inside out, hold on, and slide on, and there you go. You've got a little vest for your Webkinz made out of an old sock. It actually doesn't look half bad, to be honest. I want to try this again with the other sock. It's probably not a half bad idea to cut on an angle, since the back of their head, so you can see angles better. All right, cut off the toe again, and we're left with this shape, high again. And since these are so stretchy, I'm going to cut an even smaller hole. You can always make them bigger, but you can't make them smaller. And gonna slide that on. And hey, this works better than I honestly thought it would. Well, I have this here. Hold on. Last minute rounding out. It's fine. Everything's fine. And there we are. 2 nice little vests made out of old socks. But now let's get into some actual sewing here. So most people probably have a little sewing kit around their house. Mine's probably bigger than yours because I do this stuff a little bit more often. But something that is actually very, very useful to have around is quilting squares. These are cheap. You can get them for like $1.20 at Walmart. That's why I got all of these. Similar with ribbon. I go there, see a nice one, and I can't help myself. This blue one is so pretty. You know, you could make like a complete Webkinz shirt or outfit, dress even, something out of this. But these are pretty simple. They have the dimensions on the front right here. And despite being called a quilting square, they are in fact a rectangle. So what we can do with this is we can make bandanas and scarves. But rather than cutting this one up, I already have one that's already been cut up. So I'm gonna show you how I got to that. Since this is a rectangle, it's not gonna make a perfect sized bandana if we just cut it in half or something. So what I like to do is fold it over. Now we have a square and a size like this. Typically, I cut along here and I know this is going to be a square, and then what's left here can be a little scarf. This is how they end cut for me. I have a little edge here, and this edge, you can see these little dots and how it's kind of sewn or melted or whatever. This is not gonna come unfrayed, so this part won't need to be sewed. That's why I leave it for the scarf. It just makes a little bit less work. And then this, because Webkinz have small necks, and if you put too much fabric on them, they'll look really, really fat. I take this and I cut it in half, and then I get 2 bandanas and a little scarf. The stitching for something like this is really simple. You basically just want to stitch it so that way it doesn't come unfrayed like this. Oh, there's half of a broken needle. That's probably probably important. That fell out when I was carrying it. So I'll use white thread to match this. I want to give a little disclaimer. The candy stripe bracelets I learned how to do through things like YouTube tutorials. Sewing, no one taught me anything. Well, I think my mom might have taught me some stuff, but I don't know if she ever had a lesson or like home ec or anything. I've never had that. So if I do something wrong or call a stitch the wrong thing or whatever, please don't get mad at me. I just stitch for fun once in a while. I don't really know anything important. Anyways, threading your needle should be relatively easy. If not, you can have a needle threader. I like to use the ones with the tiny holes because they leave less of a hole and are easier to push through than the bigger needles. Tie a nice knot at the end. Oh, and if you're going to do stuff like sewing, I can't stress this enough. Please invest in a good pair of scissors. You will very much so thank yourself later. And like even these little dinky things, these are so awesome. I love these more than you can even imagine. For something like this, I like to fold it over once and then pull the needle straight through. And then after the needle's been pulled through, I fold it over again so we hide that little frayed end. And then from there on, go at the edge and just start stitching back and forth like this. I kind of do it like this because it's easier for me to fold it over once and then just put the needle back and forth. It's probably not the right way to do it, but you need a thick or strong needle so that way you can do it, because otherwise it'll break. And I'm starting to realize I grabbed the wrong needle because this one is flexing. I'm probably gonna break it. And there you go, a nice little edge. Stitching like this might not be the right way, but it's definitely an easy and quick way. So that's why I just started doing it like this. And I want to give a reminder, when you are sewing something, never leave a needle unattended, especially if you have pets. Right now is definitely not the time you want to be making an emergency rush to the vet. But anytime you don't want to be making an emergency rush to the vet, the easiest thing you can do is when you're done with your sewing, put the needle away. I like to stick my needle in here, close it up, and then close up the pencil case. That way no pets can get to it. And if you are sewing and your cat or your dog is watching you sew with those big eyes waiting to just grab the string, it's probably a good idea to either put it down for a minute so they lose interest, or to get them out of the room. Their safety is more important than you stitching something at that point in time, and I want to be very clear on that. Anyways, by the time you're done, your scarf should look something kind of like this. See, the inside has nice clean edges, so it's not going to get frayed over time. And this size particularly is better for signatures, but it also works around regular Webkinz, just like that. And the glorious thing about this is that if you think it's too big, well, you can cut something like this in half and stitch an even smaller one. And then, heck, you get 2 scarves and 2 bandanas. And these typically come untied, like my Webkinz are in storage or something. So typically I safety pin them so that way they don't fall off. And if you're curious about the bandana, this is typically what the bandana looks like afterwards. And to put it on a Webkinz, once again, it's like a signature size. For a regular, you might want to cut it out about this size, so 1/4. In that case, you could get 4 bandanas and kind of roll it up. And then you just tie it around. And that's what you can do out of quilting squares. Okay, so those are cool little things you can do, but now let's get into some real clothes. Something like this. Something that's obviously a much bigger project and a much bigger time sink. You probably have some fabric lying about. And if you don't, well, you probably have an old shirt or something that you don't want. An old blanket that you kind of need to throw away at one point. People are doing a lot of cleaning right now. Rather than throwing your clothes in the garbage, how about you cut them up and make some Webkinz clothes? Now, as much as I would love to make a beautiful, like, Webkinz coat out of this fabric, goodness, look at it, it's so gorgeous. We're gonna show you how to make a very quick dress out of this, because I don't have the battery life for it. Dresses are by far some of the easiest things to make. And actually, I'm gonna get this hood off of Shia here, because I'll make it for her real quick. Now, you could measure, you could do something with a marker. Typically, though, what I do is I just set the Webkinz here, and I, like, eyeball it. So it'll come to about right here, I think. I'm just gonna make a little snip there, and that's my marker. And for the top of the dress, it doesn't take a whole lot. Actually, this seems like an awful lot. This is what happens when you eyeball stuff. Now that I've cut it, I can kind of wrap it around. That is a whole lot. But, you know, if I want a little extra, that'll be fine. That'll be fine. It'll work for right now. And I want this to be a pretty long dress. So I'm going to go all the way down to about right here at this fold. And this one I actually want to be a little bit long because this is going to be the skirt here. So I found out, like, over Christmas, people were really jealous of the glide. So, well, I can't do it with this fabric. These scissors aren't sharp enough. Oh, I just did it. Ha ha ha. And this is the basis of our dress. I just cut it all out at once to make it a little bit easier, but I'm gonna cut this into 2 pieces actually. So the top typically doesn't need to be very long. Something about, yeah, about like that should be good. I'm a very big eyeballer. In case you can't tell, I just do everything the way I see it. So we have our top, and there we have our skirt. I wanted to get all to be one piece, that way the fade was a little bit, you know, even. You don't have to do this with anything else. There's other ways to make dresses too. You could literally just cut a circle and then cut a little circle and slide on. There's your skirt, but I'm doing it a different way here. I'm not gonna do any actual stitching just because I don't have the time, but I think you can figure out how to do that. So I'm gonna start off with making a little armhole. Once again, remember, it's a lot easier to take away than it is to add. So start off with a small hole, and if you need to make it bigger, you can make it bigger. I'm not gonna make this too awful big because I do want to stitch around this to keep it from fraying, because this is a fraying fabric, as you can already see. Some fabrics you don't have to worry too much about with that, like mostly t-shirt material, like the shirt I'm wearing, this stretchy stuff, this isn't gonna fray. You don't have to worry about that. Now I got 1 foot in, wrap it around. Typically you want to make the holes about for right here at their shoulder. You don't want to go too far down, but you also don't want to go too far in, or else you end up with a lot of extra slack right here. Once again, measuring probably would not be a half bad idea, but I don't care to measure. And can she get her foot in there? Yeah, she can. And there's our top. It fits nice and snug. You don't want too much slack or else it'll wrinkle. And this slack here in the middle, it's a lot, but don't worry, we can also cut it off. Right now I want to shape it a little bit. So I'm actually gonna turn around because there's more fabric here on the back and I want enough fabric to attach the skirt. I do want to have a nice little V neckline like that, but obviously we don't want this. So I'm gonna match up the armholes so that way it's going to be even on the Webkinz, and I am going to snip off some. I probably should be snipping off a little bit more, but remember, because I'm going to do the double fold over, I want to leave enough room for that. So I do want it to be a little bit snug for right now. And I'm just gonna take like a little crescent out of this, very gently making my way up. That's what it looks like, little dip. And that looks pretty fine to me. Maybe it could go a little bit deeper in the neck, but when I do this, it'll look just fine in the way I want it. So, since I don't have time to show you how it'll all look, I'm going to pin it for right now. And then the skirt is just really, really easy. And then I'll loop around and stitch just like this, and it'd probably look really nice with a sash or something. So, it might not be a half bad idea to take some of that ribbon you have, or some trim, and roll it over the top or something like that. I pinned it up a little bit to show you kind of a loose idea of what the dress could look like once it's all done. Of course, this trim would look much nicer along the edges, kind of like I did with this, but yeah. And of course, using this top method, you could also make something like a shirt. And the sleeves are also really simple. You just cut a strip, roll it, and you want to cut a little loop for up above the shoulder, and then you just stitch it. It's very, very simple. And to give you an example, that other type of skirt method I was talking about with the loop is kind of like this. You can see this is one solid circle of fabric with a circle cut out in the middle that was slipped over top and just tied to the top. This is a very old one. A better looking example is this one. I kind of like to make the skirt a little more narrow around the hips right here, so that way it doesn't interfere with their legs too much, and longer on the top. And that's about all I have time to show you right now. If you still don't know what to do, you could always knit your Webkinz a scarf. You don't have knitting needles? That's no problem. I once saw a kid knitting with 2 pencils, and I am definitely not the one to show you how to knit. Honestly, this is just supposed to be a quick idea list. If you really want to know how to do stuff like sew or make these bracelets, honestly, look up YouTube tutorials. They're so helpful, and they'll show you so much more than I can. And if you have any other cool ways of making Webkinz clothes or accessories, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below, so that way everyone can have a nice look at them. Anyways, that's all I really have for right now. It's getting close to the cat's dinner time, and Lady won't stop bothering me. So I will see you guys in the next one later. I realized something. You don't have to waste the toe of the sock. It's in the right shape. All you gotta do is little hat.